Hello scholars! I wanted to bring you outside with me today as I'm doing my nature journal observation, so you could get an idea of some of the things that you might want to put into your nature journal observation. Today I want to compare, I'm actually looking at this. I don't know if you noticed this or know what this is, but I kind of wanted to draw a picture of it and I wanted to compare it to something else I found. I also found this. And so they both look like they're parts of a tree and bark, but I don't think they're part of the same tree. And that's one of my questions, I think, is if they're both bark, like, does it have the same, properties, I guess. And so I was gonna write that in my journal today. I was gonna write the date. Today is September. Oh, it's hard to write in the wind. September. And I'm having a hard time writing this and holding the wind down. September 6th. You can always write the short date too. But I want to write my question first, or answer the question that was in the prompt today. If I'm comparing two types of matter, will they have the same properties? So I brought some things out with me today. So I would write the question here that I have, and then I also would maybe draw it with some colored pencils. I could even, if I really wanted to, I could even tape a piece of this here and tape a piece of this into my nature journal. This one's kind of thick, so I would probably not do that today, but I might tape this one down just so that I could see it. And I brought something out to test. I've got a couple tests that I want to do with property. I'm going to do some buoyancy. Do they both float? That one does. This one I'm going to have to break up. Oh, looks like they both float. Even if I push it down, do they come back up? That one's starting to get a little waterlogged. They both pop back up. And one of my other questions today is too, so I could write that down. They have the same buoyancy. Okay. I was also going to test its hardness today. So I'm going to use, I think I have a theory. I have a scientific argument that the bark is not as hard as a rock, like as this is. So, and just because I've had evidence before, like my expectation is that if I rub the two together, that this one's gonna rub off faster than this one will. So let's do an observation. Do my scientific, see, look at that. Very cool. For this one, I don't know if I'm gonna get as much off of this one. It's not as substantial. So let's get, it flaked pretty easily, but it more like just came apart. The way it came apart was different, which I thought was really interesting. So maybe I'll record, this one came off as more in a powder, whereas this one came off more in chunks. And so that might be something that I would write in my nature journal about the hardness of it, or it's pretty soft, doesn't have a lot of hardness, or I might say something about the particles, the parts of it. Mine came off in like pieces, larger pieces, whereas the bark, the other bark, I'm gonna call it the thick bark, came off more like fine. We call it like fine or powdery. So I could also add a question that I have maybe down here too. This is how I expect, this is not a very good example because it'll take a really long time for me to write it all out, but this is kind of an expectation of the way I'm going to be looking at nature journals this year.